Curb Your Enthusiasm. The hit television series featuring Larry David playing a fictionalized version of himself has finally come to an end after 24 years on HBO. The penultimate episode of the show, titled Ken/Kendra, just aired last month, and the episode's titular actor, Ian Harvie, is my guest today. Hi, my name is Drew Waldron, and you're listening to Niche Talks, a podcast series I started to interview creatives across all mediums of entertainment. Now, the word niche might be inappropriate here because the final season of Curb was estimated by some sources to be viewed 5 million times per episode. Our guest today, Ian Harvie, is a stand-up comedian and actor. A trans man himself, Ian had one of the most memorable moments of Curb's final season, where he plays Bruce Springsteen's manager, and his character is introduced as Ken, formerly Kendra. He then reveals that he and Larry David used to sleep together, as well as other revealing secrets about Larry.
I'm Ken, and we banged it out.
I had an incredible conversation with Ian about his career, what he's done, what he's going to do, and all sorts of other things, especially what it was like to improvise a comedic scene between Larry David, himself, and Bruce Springsteen. Now, without further delay, here is my interview with Ian Harvie. I familiarized myself with your work over the last couple days, but I know you best from the penultimate episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I'm sure that you're getting a ton of attention off that. Am I right?
I'm getting a little bit, yeah. I mean, it's like really the big star was Bruce. I mean, the storyline is hilarious, but really, I mean, it was so under wraps that he was this secret special guest that was going to make this appearance. So, I mean, he's clearly and deservingly the big star, but how lucky am I that I got to play his manager?
Absolutely. I think the most interesting thing that I learned when I was researching for this interview was that this happened like late 2022. So that's almost a year and a half, if not more, that you had to keep this completely under wraps.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, look, you're under contract to like not say a word, but I told my mom, I have to like say to her, I have to say to my mom, like, look, you cannot tell anybody. She's 85. She's like, who am I gonna tell? Well, she announced it on Facebook. So like, I'm like, I can't tell you stuff anymore, Mom. Anyway. But yeah. So yeah, I had to hold on to it since December 2022. When I auditioned for it, I then went to, costume department, and they're the ones who told me that I was going to be playing Bruce's manager. And I was such a huge fan. I just kind of like, I got really emotional, and I couldn't believe it. And then we filmed like about a week later, and then, the writer's strike, the actor's strike, and HBO is notoriously notorious for holding on to things for a very long time before they ever let them release them. So all of those things really push back, and like, of course, I'm fine with all that, and all the writer strike, I'm not complaining about any of that, but it is something that like I definitely had to stay hush about for a long time. So it was hard because it was very exciting to. And then it was so long. I'm like, what did I do? Was I any good? Was I horrible? Did they cut me out? I wonder if they even used any of it, or, like I started to like question myself, and now I'm like, I'm happily surprised with, how it came out. I'm proud of how it came out. And I'm happy that I didn't crack under pressure because the stakes felt really high. So.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that your mother's Facebook post didn't sully your relationship with HBO, it seems.
Yeah, no. It's like, if I don't want the world to know something, I tell her after the fact. So anyway, that's all right. She just doesn't understand. She doesn't understand that people get in trouble for that. She doesn't understand that also that, when she posts something, like someone could see it and grab it, and she's like, I just wanted to tell my family. Like, if she wants to leave me a private message, oftentimes she still messages me on my wall of Facebook. It's like, I just really like private stuff that you're just like, Mom, what are you doing?
For the entire world to see.
Yeah, she doesn't get it. It's okay.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you're working with Bruce Springsteen. Not only is that just like a huge, huge moment, but you're also working with Larry David, both of them arguably two of the best of their mediums, respectively.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I was going through your Instagram and I saw that you were misquoted in an article that said that you were intimidated by working with both of them. I just want to give you the opportunity to set the record straight.
Oh, the article title is clickbait, it
As,
just says that I was terrified to work with Larry David. That's not accurate. It's fine. They can write whatever they want, but it just was such a weird title. It's like, oh, you just want people to click. So it's fine. Hope they clicked and hope they read it. But if you read deeper into the article, you would hear me say, or you would read that I said that I love doing things that are creative and terrifying. Like there is something to that like, yeah, I really enjoy. Like if it's terrifying and creative, like I'm gonna say yes. And sometimes I say yes before I realize it's going to be terrifying, but I'm also thrilled that it once I figure out that it will be terrifying, that most things creatively like that where the stakes are really high. It is terrifying. You want to earn the love and respect of the people that you're working with, and you don't want to hold things up, and you don't want the day to go long because of you. So for sure, but that's part of it, but nothing to do with Larry, just, to do with like the stakes are really high and people are counting on you to like show up and be professional and do a good job. And it just felt like this is Larry David and Bruce Springsteen. I have to keep my shit together and bring it today. So that kind of pressure thrills me, and that being like that kind of terrified, I actually love. So I love being terrified in that way.
for sure, for sure.
How
As a
lucky, how lucky am I to be terrified?
exactly, exactly. How
Yeah.
lucky are you to be terrified in a situation that cool?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Speaking of
So,
like being terrified, like I'm assuming as a fan of the show that a lot of those terrifying feelings are coming from the fact that a majority of Curb is completely improvised, and therefore the comedy is on your shoulders. Were your scenes in Curb improvised like most of the rest of the show is?
oh yeah, the entire show is totally improvised. They give you a history of the story that just says like, look, you used to know Larry, used to fuck, like, these are the basics. We don't care what conversation you have after that. Like you can say anything you want. You can get there, take however long you want to get there. Be quick, be short, whatever. Be long. Like whatever they're like. We don't care. Just get there. And the nice thing is that in that, like, it's no different than having this conversation. We are improving right now.
Sure.
So people think improving is difficult. The truth is, like, when you put pressure on yourself to think about it, it's like it becomes unnatural. But if you realize every freaking conversation you have with every human on earth is totally improvised, and then that thinking really let me off the hook of like, I'm just going to show up and be present and listen to what they're saying and respond to what they're saying. And then that just felt like it really let me off the hook for, and for what we would find, like, just, like, we're just gonna see what we see here and go wherever it goes. And it went to floor fucker. So I mean, how
So Floorfucker was improvised. Was it improvised entirely by you? That like
no, it was actually said by Bruce, but here's what's interesting.
yeah.
I submitted my audition tape, and in my audition tape, me and my acting partner, who was off screen, said floor fucker. So I don't know if it was already in the lexicon
Mhm.
of like when people were reading this, they were either hoping, or if it was given to somebody to, I don't know if it was given to Bruce or if he came up with it on his own, or we all just think alike. But it was in my audition tape. And so I was thrilled when I heard it because it was already in I was so glad. In my audition tape, I think at the very end, I say something like, yeah, good luck with the floor fucking, floor fucker, or whatever, but like something along those lines at the very end of the tape. And I thought, that's what's going to get me this job. And I don't know if that's what got me the job was, that sort of thing. But anyway, it's like minds. I think funny like minds will get there. It's not a stretch to think that Bruce, we had this conversation about fucking on the floor. It's not, the alliteration of it's funny, like, so I don't know, to call Larry a floor fucker for as an original thought from Bruce is also, it's totally plausible. He probably came up with it on his own, but it's nice that it was like in my consciousness already, and then I was like so thrilled when he said it. Anyway.
I played piano for an improv comedy club, and an improviser that I have a lot of respect for, he said something similar to you. He said, people who think they can't do improv comedy do it every single day. And, the
Yeah,
fact that you said that
absolutely.
is improv, everything around you is improv. Did you have experience in improv comedy before going on the show? Because I know that you do stand up, but I wasn't sure if you had improv experience.
Just this much. I've taken improv classes and that sort of thing just to sort of be in practice and understand the games and to know sort of how to do that. And also crowd work with audiences. Doing stand up is improv. And also understanding that, everything you do every day, like that guy said, is improv. And so I didn't feel nervous about that. That part of it. So I just felt like this is something we all know how to do. I know how to do this. My I really, the task for me was to not be so nervous that it takes me out of myself
Mm.
and it removes me from me. And that to me was the most important thing, was to slide in there and be a version of myself and be comfortable enough to not be so nervous, to where, I don't know if you've ever been so nervous and that you leave, then you later leave that situation and go, God, I just hate that I wasn't myself.
Mm.
I hate that I just was so anxious that I wasn't the best version of myself in that moment. And that to me is like when I, feel like I've failed, is when so I was glad that I didn't get that scared. I walked in there and I thought, Larry's got to be a little nervous to work with Bruce, even though Larry has done this a million times. It's the fucking boss walking onto the set, and he's like, may I call you boss? Yeah. Like, like, of course, like we were all like, everybody on set was waiting with bated breath when his car pulled up to release him onto set. We were all just like looking out the window. We could hear people on their walkies, on their earpieces, and like, he's here, he's here, he's here, he's here, he's here. And it's like, we're all, so excited. So I know that, Larry was probably, nervous, excited too, in some way, even though he's done this a million times. And then I thought, I've never done this. I actually auditioned before with Larry. I got a call back and auditioned with him on it for another role on that show. And so I had actually played with him, in an audition room before, and it was super fun. And I made him laugh, and I was like, so I wasn't like going in completely cold, like I have no idea what's going on. Like it felt familiar. And then, I think, Bruce has never done anything like this before. So I just really aligned myself with that. This is something a little bit new for everybody.
Mm.
And to like, that's what allowed me to sort of glide into the scene and, just be as comfortable as I could possibly be in that situation.
That's awesome. So you auditioned for the show twice before, and I always like to ask, especially a working actor like yourself, were you a fan of Curb before both of your auditions? Because a working actor who's auditioning
Oh
for
yeah.
things, it's almost impossible to be a fan of everything that you work on.
A huge fan, huge fan. And I remember I said this in other interviews, and sorry if it's a repeat, but I was a background actor in Curb Your Enthusiasm, the episode where the cast of Seinfeld comes back to Julia Louis-Dreyfus's house for a reunion. And Julia and Larry get into an argument because she thinks he left a water glass on a side table without a coaster and left a water ring. And I don't think it was him, it was somebody else, but they get into an argument. He's like, why would you think I would do that? I love wood. I respect wood. I would never do that. And she's like, Larry, calls him a liar or whatever. But I was standing in the room with them while they were working on that scene. And as a comic, I remember thinking how beautiful it would be to be on a show like this. Like, that is the process. Like they work it out together, they walk away, they come back with new sort of ideas and more improv. And that the premise is somebody left a water glass. Who did it? That's the premise. And then you go from there. And usually those things, like, I think they don't take very many takes. There's an individual camera on Julia, there's an individual camera on Larry. They're these one shots, they're super close up. there's maybe one wide shot at the same time. They're filming all at the same time, so it's super efficient. And I think I watched that process and I thought how beautiful and how creative and how efficient and how fun. Like I would love to be on this show. And I just thought, nah, that's such a dream. Like I'm a newbie in LA. I'm a background actor. I'd never see the light of day on this set as an actor. And then I came in for an audition and I came in for a callback, auditioned with Larry, didn't get it. And then I self-taped for this one and got the job for this one. So it was probably 15 years in the making that I got to do this thing that I had dreamed about, and I'm so grateful for it. It's definitely something that an actor's dream. This, and I know a lot of actor friends who love this show and who were dying to be on it. Like my friend Ray Abruzzo, we jokingly call it our episode because he's the one that auditioned with me off camera and played Larry. So he and I, and he's a Sopranos actor. He played Little Carmine on The Sopranos. He's so amazing, and he read as Larry. He knew his tone, he knew everything. But he's wanted to. He and I know so many other people who have dreamed of being on that show. It's like it just feels like artistically a privilege to be on a show that funny and iconic.
Definitely is, and it's a shame that you weren't shown because I was about to ask you, like, canonically, do you think that you are playing the same person or two different people? But I guess
Yeah, no, like not even seen, but was fly on the wall. It was fun.
that's awesome, and I didn't know that you were friends with Little Carmine. I love The Sopranos.
Oh yeah, he's one of my dearest. And like sidebar about him, like he has this Mustang named Stuart that lives on his best friend's ranch and up in Topanga, and we go up there all the time and introduce me to horses and my partner Sarah to horses. And now we are like these horse nuts, and we volunteer at a sanctuary in Malibu, my partner Sarah and I do, and we're there 3 days a week, and all because of him that we are these horse, Mustang and donkey fans, and because he introduced us to his horse Stewart and his best friend Cassidy and Jeb and this mini burro named Luca that we're just, we fell in love with. So we owe him a debt of gratitude for taking being in LA and bringing us horses, like which is something that not many people get to have that kind of fun in LA. You just think LA is it's a lot of concrete jungle and to think that you just within 15 minutes 10 minutes of my house, like I can go up and hang out with Ray and the horses, and it's such a beautiful break from the biz, so to speak. So
Speaking of the biz, what would you say that your current split is amongst different creative mediums? Because I know that you're an actor, you're a stand-up comedian. I've seen you do a TED talk. Like you seem to do a bag of things. Like
it's speaking of horses, this is how I sort of how I frame it. I have a friend who's a really great comic in the Boston area. His name's Josh Day. He and I were talking about all the different things that we do and want to do. And I said, I feel like they're all, directing is a horse, acting is a horse, stand-up comedy is a horse. And I also, one of the things that I do in the major in-betweens, in between, stand-up shows that pay, like you don't get paid to do stand-up shows around LA. You go on the road to make money doing stand-up. And, one of the things that like I also do is like I build catios. I also like I take care of a bunch of different families' homes with whatever they need, carpentry or home maintenance repair. So I'm like a house manager for a bunch of my family friends. So I like my friends of like, that I say family friends, but I basically for Bradley Whitford and Amy Landecker, like, I take care of anything they need done to their house. For Margaret Cho, there's a bunch of people that I do that sort of stuff. And so anyway, all these different things that I do, like I consider them my horses, and at any particular time, one is always in the lead, like And I just basically I root for whatever that horse is at that time, and I believe that the universe and I should put forth all the effort that I can into all of those things. But sometimes building catios takes my attention. That horse takes the attention for weeks. And then, Curb airs, and then, my life changes again, and a different horse takes the lead. The acting horse sort of takes the lead. And I get a bunch of phone calls. I have a director friend that called me, was like, I loved you on Curb. Like, I have a project I want to talk to you about. I'm like, great. My agents, perk up and are like, let's take that project out. Or, like, so it at any given time during the week, like it could be a different horse next week. You know what I mean? Like, and I have a Netflix is a jokes, show coming up on May 6th that, it's Ian Harvie and friends, and then stand up will, sort of take the lead. And so I don't know what percentage is, but whenever it's happening, like I'm all in on that thing when that thing is happening. And so December and January, I directed a film, and it was like we were in the editing bay, for the film. And so that seemed to be the horse for many weeks. And I don't know. So it really just depends. And I think what will help you if you are somebody, an artist in this industry, is one, you always have to have something else that always like is sort of can keep your feet on the ground and stable until all of the other things become so big and all the other horses are running so fast that so I've always had something, as like an income base, so that I've never fully relied on entirely on just, stand up or just acting. It's like you will be scared and disappointed and terrified in a really bad way. Economic fear terrified, if you don't sort of have lots of things to sort of chase. And so that's what I do. So I don't know what the percentages are, but I definitely I chase the ones that seem to be needing the most attention at that time.
I love the horse analogy. The movie that you were talking about ending, is that something you're allowed to talk about now, or is
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a short called Frosting, and it was written by this actor, writer, producer named Rose Donahue. She's fantastic. And it's a trans storyline about this person who comes out to somebody in their a family member who is also queer. They come out as trans, and their family member is queer, and they thought that they would take it better than they thought they were going to. And that, sometimes what sort of presents as transphobia can even come from fellow family members who are queer, and that them working through that and what that looks like. And so I always think it's interesting when that kind of thing happens, and it's not necessarily from the people you think. It's not from some redneck that you don't know. It's actually from within. It's like the calls coming from within your house. And so I just thought that was a really interesting story to tell. And we got these three. Rose acted in it. She played the older relative that I say older, but she was 30, but the person that was coming out was like 15. And so I think that, I don't know, I love that it was like a very tender story. They got to the other side with each other, and it was and it's it'll be hitting festivals in the next many months. So super excited about that. That was something that, I've wanted to direct, but I was like, who's going to ever ask me? It would have to be something I wrote if I wanted to do it, and I would have to produce it and figure out how to do it. But the beautiful thing was, she said, look, I'm a fan of your stand-up. We met in Vegas when you were doing some Pride event there, and I just thought you were great, and would you come direct this, and I'll help you learn what you need to learn. And so she sent me a bunch of video links and was like, here's how you write a storyboard, here's how you write a shot list, here are different camera angles and some language that you'll probably need to know if you don't already know it, and I'll work with you on anything else. And so she gave me a great assistant director. She gave me a great AD, and she was a producer on it. And I basically was in great hands as a new director. So I'm super excited. And it really made me want to do more. It's like that it made me want to direct more. The way that after I did my first stand-up set, I remember that sensation of chasing it so freaking hard that I would drive 2 hours to Boston to do 5 minutes for free and drive home. It's like I would do another film for nothing. Like I would direct another film tomorrow for nothing. Like that's like the kind I'm like it really made me think about filmmaking in a totally different way because I've always thought about it from as an actor storyteller rather than thinking about the visuals. I think a lot of times as an actor, you have to kind of put away what you look like. You cannot think about what you look like. It's like get in the hair and makeup chair and then go be on set and be present and stop thinking about what you look like and how you are saying something and how it looks when you're saying something. Don't think about that stuff. Just be present. And it, in a lot of ways, like I think directing is like, it really is like, what does it look like? Does this feel and look like you want it to look like? And so, put your sort of stamp and your point of view on it and your translation of this script. And so what does it look like in your mind when you see it? And as an actor, like I don't think I think you have to really remove yourself from doing that. So it was a really entirely different process for me. And I know I'm really oversimplifying, and any director listening right now is probably like horrified, but but for sure, like it was an experience that I want to learn more and I want to do it again and again. So it was really fun to do.
I haven't been on nearly as many film sets as you, but for the little acting I have done, it's crazy how much of a difference a good AD could make.
And a DP because I didn't, when I wrote my shot list, I was like I they were like this is actually the most thorough shot list I've ever seen. And what I realized was I kind of overdid it, and these three shots were one shot. And the DP helped me understand that, and they were like, and I was like I have no idea how long these things were going to take, and this is a 2-day shoot, so in on one set. And I would we had it was a SAG after ultra low budget, and so we had some rules and we had to be done by a certain time based on budget constraints too. So all of that stuff is like AD and DP. How long is it going to take, and how quickly do we need to move to the next shot? Do we have it? Do we have coverage and all of that sort of stuff? Those guys were so instrumental in keeping me sort of keeping the ship, right side up with all of that, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, it's a team effort. As a director who is taking on someone else's writing and someone else's visions, what are some of the difficulties that come through the creative process when you're adapting someone else's stories? There's a lot of trust involved in that process.
I think Rose was very, very, the screenwriter was really, she's amazing and she's really collaborative. So, a lot of times I think when you write something as a writer, you think this is what it means. And then you hear somebody else's interpretation of it and you're like, oh shit, I didn't think that that's also what it could mean too. Or maybe I didn't realize that is what I meant. And so when you get somebody else's eyes on a script, someone in the position of a director, I think, and also, your job as a director, and I heard this from my friend Jay Duplass, when I got this directing job, the first thing I did was I called director friends and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Am I even capable? And the great thing that Jay Duplass said to me was, your job as a director is to make that writer's dream come true. And so you are there to be in service to the writer and to all of the actors. And sometimes it's about getting coffee, and sometimes it's like going in with a really specific idea. And it's also about being flexible enough to throw out all of those ideas if needed. And one of the other things that he said was so great was he was like, you're going to be so excited making your first movie. You're going to shoot your first scene. And then you're going to be so excited that you're making a movie. You're going to have no judgment on really, truly if it was any good. Go back and shoot it again. And I was like, that's brilliant. So I did. I shot it at that our opening scene. It wasn't for the opening of the movie, but it was the very first scene we shot. I was so excited. I was floored, to have my own little, picture up in front of me and looking at this movie that we're making. I was very excited. So, I really think that, it's about first read that, you get so familiar and intimate with that script that you know every word on the page, and you know what every word you think means to you. You do work with the writer and walk through that together of what you think each thing means. And then you get on set, or you do the table read with the actors, and then we talk about with them what we all think it means. And then we put all of those things together in front of a camera. So I don't know. I think that I love that collaborative process. And at the end, ultimately, the director is the person. And the nice thing Rose said to me was like, I am no longer the writer. I am no longer on the days that we filmed. She was like, I am no longer the writer. I'm no longer the producer. I just want to be the actor. So anything at this point is you get to make the decision about. Like, you don't have to consult me as the writer. You don't have to consult me as the, and so that was actually really nice. Like, I know it was nice for her to be freed up from, being wearing all these other hats, and to just be present as the performer, but and the storyteller that way. But also in the end, like, a decision has to be made. I'm proud that we got what we did. We didn't. The nice thing was, in the editing process, we weren't missing anything. The long version was 20 minutes, and then we had to edit it down to something that could be in lots of festivals and to be accepted into more festivals. We got it down to 14 minutes. So we're all very proud of it. And I'm proud of Rose and her writing and performance. And yeah, so it was a really great process.
Ian, I know that we are at time right now, so I wanted to give you a very quick minute to do a plug session. Where can people find you? What should people be looking out for? Feel free to just list off everything you can.
I would say, look, just go if you want to know what I'm up to. The two places that I'm the most active, one is Instagram, which is just at Ian Harvie, Harvie. You can see what I'm up to, whether it's with donkeys and horses, or whether it's I have a show coming up, or whether it's about Curb or whatever else. But also, if I have shows coming up, they're on my website at ianharvie.com, spelled the same way, IANHARVIE.com. My Netflix is a joke show is coming May 6th, Monday, May 6th at 7 p.m. at the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica. I'm super excited. I have so many funny people on the show with me, and I'm just really proud to be in the festival, and it'll be super fun.
Folks, that is Ian Harvie, a man of many, many horses.
Thank you so much.